Guys are all part of. All right. Maybe somebody can comment on the Facebook event to make sure everyone can hear me okay, because we've got people watching out to make sure that the audio and the picture is okay. So I'm going to try to stand as still as I can this evening so all of you that are joining from home can see us as well. I have a room full of awesomeness here. Everyone has berries of some sort in a glass, so I hope that everyone else at home does too, because that's what we're here to talk about, fruits and vegetables. So thank you for joining me. I'll just give a short introduction for those of you who have not met me before, and if it sounds like I'm screaming, it's only because I want everyone at home to be able to hear me as well, so sorry about that. But my name is Kim McColl. I am a certified health coach, and I am also a national marketing director with the Juice Plus company. I heard about Juice Plus, gosh, it's been about 6 years ago now. I was with Dr. Sears. If any of you are you guys familiar with him? He's written about 40 books or so on pediatrics with a focus oftentimes on nutrition, eating real food, that sort of thing. So I was working on a certification through him, and I was actually on his board of advisors for his Wellness Institute, and I asked him the question about supplements. I said, you know, what I'm finding in my health coaching is that we're all falling short. I have a biology background, and I'm just also very self-read on health and wellness. So I was pregnant with I had a 1-year-old, and I was pregnant with my second, and I kind of was doing the math on a day-to-day basis. And I feel like, you know, we probably do better than 95% of the families out there, to be quite honest. But I still felt like we were falling short. You know, if that goal were 7 to 13 servings a day of fruits and vegetables to really start to affect prevention, we weren't hitting it, you know, and I thought we were doing a pretty good job. So I was reading a lot about supplements, and the more I read, the less impressed I was with that whole industry. So I asked him the question about filling the gaps. And I said, what do you recommend to your patients when they're not getting what they need from a real food perspective? And that is when he introduced me to Juice Plus. So I was a person that it made immediate sense for. I will tell you, I had no idea that it was going to change the path of our entire lives, really. I mean, like, my husband and I both do this together. He's out in Las Vegas right now at a Juice Plus boot camp. And, you know, at the time he was an executive coach, I was a health coach. We were living in Arlington so we could be close to clients, and you know, it's been kind of crazy because now we're working together and helping people get healthy. So that's a little bit about me. I call this talk because of Juice Plus, and we're going to talk about both sides of the coin tonight. I'm going to talk a lot about research, but I'm also going to share some results, because for someone like me, the biology background in me loves the studies, but the human being in me, the person in me, really likes the stories. And I think that's important information to hear as well. So I'm going to share a little bit of both. Okay, by a show of hands, or if you're at home, you can just hit the like button, or love if you loved it. Did you see the movie Sliding Doors? Okay, oh, not as many in this room as I thought. So the premise of Sliding Doors was a fantastic movie. Gwyneth Paltrow, I don't know, it's in my tween years probably. But I watched Sliding Doors, and it hit me hard, because the premise of the movie is this. In one scene, Gwyneth Paltrow makes the subway. She's rushing for it, and the doors are about to close, and she makes it. And then in the next scene, you see her rush for it, and she doesn't make it. So the movie goes on to show two totally different storylines. Like, her life took two completely different paths because of making or not making that train. And it freaked my teenage mind out when I saw that, right? Because all of a sudden, like, the weight of every decision was like more than I could handle. But I thought about it a lot. And as I've gone through life, I've come to realize there are quite a few of those decisions that are rather obvious to us, right? Like where we decide to go to college, or if we decide to go to college, where we decide to live, who we decide to marry. Like, all of those things play a very big role. They are defining decisions. And I want to start this evening by saying, I can say with 100% authenticity that I truly and sincerely feel like Juice Plus is one of those decisions for people. I absolutely do. Having been involved with this organization now for 6 years, I was lucky. Our family was coming from a place of good health when we started. I started our family on this product just knowing what I know about the human body and the power of fruits and vegetables. But I cannot begin to tell you, and you'll hear a little bit about the changes in our family, but my gosh, the level of health and healing and transformation that I have heard from people I know, love, and trust has been so beyond anything that I anticipated that I absolutely put Juice Plus into that category. I feel like it's one of those decisions, which is why I pour so much time and energy and always opening my house and my Facebook world to sharing, because I think it's that important. And I hope by the end of the evening you'll all understand why I feel that way. So why did I decide to become a health coach? I was in technology sales after I graduated from college. My major was biology and marketing. I was very interested in medicine, but the further I got down that path, the more I realized it was a lot about sickness and disease, and I didn't like that. I like prevention and wellness, but that really wasn't what they were teaching in all of the biology and chemistry classes. I loved marketing. I went into technology sales, but I always kind of knew that career 2.0, I wanted to be doing something that felt like I was helping people, okay? And this was all fascinating to me. And I'm gonna be honest, not just from a personal perspective, but from a business opportunity perspective. Because remember, I came from business at the time. And I stopped my corporate job when my daughter was born, which I think shocked a lot of people. Some of them are in the room that it shocked. But I did, I left. And I think people were kind of shocked by that. But I went to become a certified health coach because of this up here. And I was gonna focus a lot on corporate wellness, which I did, when I first became a health coach. I was going in and helping companies understand how their bottom line would improve if they could help the health and wellness of their employees. Well, something really interesting happened when I had kids. Like, this whole shift went from, more corporate to family. Like, how do I help these families? How do I help these moms that feel as desperate as I do get their kids healthy? So that's when I got some additional certifications, reached out to the Dr. Sears program, and thankfully heard about Juice Plus. So it was at that moment that kind of a lot of things pivoted for me, and basically it boils down to that. Those statistics up top, I'm not even gonna read them all, but they're terrifying, And we all know people, 1 in 3 people living with cardio disease, 1 in 3 women developing cancer, 1 in 2 men. That's a lot. That's 50% of the men in our lives. That's unacceptable, And it's okay that it's unacceptable because of this. And I find that when I work with people professionally, that number, and I'm gonna call my dad out because he's in the room, he and I like to have some friendly discussions about this sometimes. This number does 1 or 2 things for people. Either it makes you feel empowered, or it's almost like too much pressure. You don't even want to think that your decisions are playing that big a role, right? Because that maybe feels like a lot of pressure, but they do. Like, we are so much more in control than we would ever be led to believe, when it comes to just kind of traditional medicine and these disease statistics that are floating around out there. That's scary, don't get me wrong. But look at that, and that's the lowest number that I found. And I used it because it was a Sears number, and I respect him a great deal. But there are many other, profoundly respected medical professionals that take the number much higher than that, okay? So we're gonna talk tonight about some of the most important things that go in there. And Dad, I think you'll agree with that 75%, right? Yeah, okay. Just making sure, he's keeping me honest. So what is Juice Plus? If you haven't heard about it, this is why I was so drawn to it and fascinated, because it's not a supplement. It's just food. It carries a nutrition label. It does not carry a supplement facts label. Oftentimes I get people wanting me to compare Juice Plus to something else they see on the market. A Sweet Greens this, or a Juice Festive that, or they'll just bring me something and ask me to look at it. It's truly, no pun intended, it's like apples and oranges. I truly cannot compare something that has a supplement label to something that has a food label. Other products that are out there, if they were eligible to carry a food label, would. They would want a food label because people want whole food. They want a whole food concentrate, okay? Instead of something isolated, synthetic, and manufactured, okay? So truly, Juice Plus is just vine ripened concentrated produce in a capsule. The second thing that really drew me to it was the research, and we're going to spend a significant amount of time on that, so I don't need to talk about it now. But how is Juice Plus made? I have a video on it, but I'm not going to show it because I'm going to just tell you. It's fascinating to me because when I first heard about Juice Plus, I was picturing juicing. Raise your hand if you've juiced. Raise your hand if you did it really consistently. So it's like people are like, oh, is it easy? Is it cheap? No, it's none of those things. Is it good for you? Yes. Of course it's amazing for you. But it still can be a lot of sugar, to be honest, at the end of the day when you look at it. But it's extraordinarily expensive, and it's not at all convenient. I think most people would agree. But what Juice Plus does is they contract with small and mid-sized farmers, all domestic with the exception of, I believe, the acerola cherries are still grown abroad because they just don't grow well here. But it's a very controlled process. And here's what's important to understand about the produce that you're flooding your body with when you're eating Juice Plus every day. We've all seen articles out there that talk about how things like spinach or broccoli or our food in general the nutritional integrity has been degraded to the point of no return, essentially. I saw a statistic the other day in a nutrition article saying that it would take roughly 30 bowls of spinach today to get the same amount of iron and vitamin K that you could have gotten in one bowl just 40 years ago. So it's a problem. Our food supply is deficient now when it comes to a lot of the phytonutrients that we need to keep us healthy. The reason for that is just the way industry and food transport has gotten. The average piece of produce travels 1,400 miles from where it's picked to where it's purchased. Okay? And most of the time, it's going to sit at the store for a while, and then you're going to bring it home, and you need it to last for a couple days, or you're not going to be happy with the store manager, right? So it's just forced us to harvest fruits and veggies far before they're ripe, okay? The lion's share of those extraordinarily valuable phytonutrients come to be in that piece of produce in that last 24 to 48 hours on the vine or in the ground before it's ripe, okay? So that whole eat local movement is not just about financially supporting local agriculture. It's about health. It's about the fact that when things are picked closer to home, they're allowed to ripen and they give you more nutrition, okay? So it's really important to understand, while it's great that I still go load my cart at the grocery store with as many fruits and veggies as we can, what I'm getting when I eat the Juice Plus is, in my opinion, superior to what I could even get, because it's vine ripened. It is tested 5 times through the process for not just herbicides and pesticides like a traditional organic would, but herbicides, pesticides, bacteria, heavy metals. You hear about these recalls on organic kale because of McColl and whatnot, so we don't have those issues. So they vine ripen all their produce, at which point it's picked, and then on site or near site, it is Juice Plus. I always envisioned it being juiced. It is not. It is Juice Plus, and that's what I call it. That's probably not. They probably have a far more technical term for it, but they Juice Plus it. It's the equivalent of putting the entire apple, the entire orange, in a giant Vitamix. Comment on the news feed or raise your hand if you've ever, on a regular basis, eaten the peel of an orange when you eat an orange. No, right? There's a lot of nutrition in there. We don't eat it. It doesn't taste that great, right? And we're not even taught to do that. It's this is how you peel an orange, right? You are getting the whole food, the entire orange, the entire apple, the core, the seeds. There are some valuable nutrients in there that are being delivered to our bodies when we take Juice Plus, okay? So after you put it in this Juice Plus and it's in this slurry, it is then basically flash frozen in a proprietary fashion. And for lack of a better term, it's so fast that it's still raw. It's still raw produce. All of the digestive enzymes that are in raw fruits and vegetables are still there. So not is this just concentrated produce, it's concentrated raw produce. You've also heard about the value of eating raw, right? And not cooking everything you're eating. So there are just so many advantages to flooding your body with produce. I still recommend, and anyone partnering with Juice Plus would still recommend, a healthy diet. We still want you eating as many fruits and vegetables as you can. Otherwise, what is your diet filled with? Probably too much of something that doesn't have that nutrient density that would serve you best, okay? Juice Plus is a tool. I've already told you, what I do. I'm a health coach. I already told you why. I do it because I thought those statistics were totally unacceptable. Frankly, it scared me. I love too many people, and I have too much history on both sides of my family of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, stroke, to mess around with it, okay? But I was a little bit at a loss for how, to be honest. And my charter when I started my health coaching practice was always to be dedicated to provide my clients with tools. I wanted to be like the tool girl, right? And what I mean by that is we are inundated with information. And that's great. That knowledge is great, but it's still just information. My whole differentiator, if you will, when I started my business and I wrote my business plan as a health coach, was I'm going to be more than somebody that's just an educator. I want to give somebody the keys to the car. And I'll give you an example so you understand what I'm talking about. I got a document one time from a nutrition organization I was working with, and it was a list of the top 12 non-food ingredients to avoid. The worst offenders, the worst 12 of the 1,200 that are still allowed in our food supply. And I thought to myself, this is it. This is my tool, right? Because it's just 12. I can manage 12. And if you cut these out, you've cut out, 95% of the unacceptable, questionable kind of ingredients. So I took that list and I went to the grocery store and I started flipping over labels, and then I realized it was still information. It was pared down information, mind you, which was helpful, but it was still just information, right? So I spent significant numbers of hours over the course of months and months developing a brand-specific shopping list, right? That said, here are the breads, the cereals, the crackers, the yogurts, what have you, that are void of any of these questionable ingredients. Because to me, that's a tool. Because you're in the bread aisle and you can see, I'm going to get this one or this one, or I'm going to get this one and this one. So that was always my MO, right? As a health coach, I wanted to hand people a tool. So you can imagine how excited I was when I heard about fruits and vegetables in a capsule, right? Because to date, I had been doing grocery shopping tours with people. I had been giving them meal plans full of vegetarian ideas, which is still great, right? I had been giving them smoothie recipes, talking to them about juicing. And guess what they did with a lot of that information? Not a lot sometimes, because it wasn't convenient enough. It wasn't cost effective enough. It wasn't in their lifestyle, right? This is, right? This is something we can all just do every single day. So I was elated, which is why I'm so passionate about this. I was elated. I already had the what. I already had the why. I didn't have the how until I heard about Juice Plus. When I did, I just knew that this is where I was going to spend the bulk of my career. And now, like I said, it's honestly turned into a family business. My second grader spent 90 minutes 2 days ago teaching 150 second graders a nutrition lesson with me at the school. So she is, a health and wellness advocate at the ripe old age of 7. And I love that. I love that it's because of her exposure to this kind of, great information, and she has the tools. She knows what she's doing. So Juice Plus, in my personal and professional opinion, is a very, very special two-sided coin, okay? Because most of the time, you're hearing stories from people, which is fine. I like testimonials. They're human, they're real. I like them even more when they come from people that I know and trust, because I know that they're being honest with me, okay? But very few times do you look at a nutritional support product and have any clinical independent research, okay? And I know we've got one medical doctor in the room, whom I love dearly, but anybody else who's ever been involved with reading medical journals or any kind of research, how many studies, independent studies like we're getting ready to talk about, do you think the average pharmaceutical has on it before it's taken to market and distributed through doctors' offices everywhere? Any guesses? 2 to 4. 2 to 4. 2 is like 4 max, but 2 to 4, right? And we're good, right? We'll prescribe it anywhere. So Juice Plus, and this is why it has such unrivaled support in the medical community. And I'm calling Carla out because she is a medical doctor, and I remember her first event like 5 years ago or so. She came to hear Dr. Du Bois speak, and she has since heard so many other doctors speak, and there's just so much support. And this is why, because it's not just about stories, it's not just about testimonies, it's about independent, peer-reviewed clinical research. This slide's a little bit old. It says 31. We're up to like the mid-30s now. I think what is going to be my favorite study of all times is underway right now at Tufts University. And it's basically looking at the set of the biomarkers for aging and saying, how does Juice Plus affect those? So I'm very excited that we have what is essentially an anti-aging study going on. I think that's going to do good things for the product. Let's just say that. Let's just say that. But I also think that the anecdotal stories and results are important, okay? And so I'm going to share them because all of the stories I'm sharing are from people who have said that I could share them, who have made lifestyle changes, have added Juice Plus, and have had awesome results. And I want you to hear from them. I want you to hear from them also. So why does the science matter? This is why the science matters. Because when I show you the things you most typically feel or see when you start Juice Plus, they're great, don't get me wrong. I love that my hair and my nails grow so fast. I just had a newer client of mine. She started taking Juice Plus about 3 months ago. She texted me today, said she's been going to the same nail guy for like 15 years, and today he was like, what in the heck is happening with your finger? Why? He could literally barely cut through them. He was like, your nails are so strong. And she was like, oh my gosh. So she's like, could it be that? I was like, well, you tell me, is that the only change you made, right? So it's pretty impressive when you look at that stuff. I like that we don't get sick. Honestly, that's our experience personally as a family. I can't say you're never gonna get sick again. But when we start to feel like we get that scratchy throat, or we got that, oh, that fun email from Michael's classroom yesterday. If we're Facebook friends, you saw it. It's like, strep alert, strep alert. Michael has 6 kids in his classroom out with strep throat right now. 6. So we doubled up, you know? We'll probably triple up because I'm going to Mexico in like next Thursday and I really don't want to get sick. But those things are nice, okay? But they're up here. They're that tip of the iceberg, right? We all know what happened to Titanic. You know what I mean? It was like, didn't steer far enough right because it could only see the tip. You don't know what's underneath. To me, this is what the research represents. The research is very controlled, and I'm going to walk you through one of the studies so you can understand the kind of research that I'm talking about. But the research looks at the things that aren't subjective, the things that they can quantify, that they can draw blood, that they can look at numbers, that they can really just say, is this affecting these markers, these blood levels, this level of damage? So it's incredible to be able to have this kind of information because, you guys, this stuff is awesome. And to be honest, this is why a lot of people start. It is, because they want to stop getting sick, or you know, they have digestive issues or migraines or skin issues or allergies. I get it. But like some of the stuff that's down here is even more important. So I always want people to understand what is happening at the cellular level and what has been proven to be happening inside of everyone, because that is very important. Okay, show me the science. This one slide I have given an hour talk on before. I won't. I'm going to give the highlights, but if anybody wants that level of detail, I'm your girl. Tell me, because I love this stuff. I love it. It's why I put our family on Juice Plus. I was pregnant, mind you, when I heard about it. So if you think anyone researched it more than me before putting it in their body, I think you'd be wrong. I researched the heck out of Juice Plus, and the more I researched, I was just like, this is amazing. I need to do this as like a career. You know, I was like, it's not even enough that we're just taking it as a family. So let me just give you the highlights. By a show of hands or comments or likes or loves on the Facebook event, how many of you have heard a lot about inflammation over the last few years? Inflammation being the root of so many evils, right? Systemic inflammation shows up in our body a lot of different ways. One of them, like obviously, when you're looking at like joint pain or arthritic, but so many other things are inflammatory that we don't think about. We hear about, you know, like colitis, about Crohn's, about many of those things. And I'll use myself as an example here. I broke a hip, believe it or not, at the ripe old age of 20-something, training for a marathon, running on the sidewalks in Arlington. You girls remember. It was attractive, right? I'm walking like on crutches. So I had to take like a year off of running, which was awful for me because I'm like a 360-day-a-year runner. And it was just terrible. And it healed. But I was aware of my hip constantly when I ran for the next 10 years, 12 years, however long it was. And I was always afraid to push myself. So I never went out and did another race. I never did any races after that. I just would do my like 3 to 4 mile jogging route at the pace that I felt like wasn't going to do any permanent damage and go from there. So I would venture to say, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months, maybe after I started Juice Plus, one day I just realized it was gone. You know, I'm like, it's gone. I always thought it was something in the bone. It must have been something inflammatory. Vicki and I have both talked, and we didn't even discover this for some reason until a couple months ago. Both of us used to get restless legs syndrome, like RLS, so bad in our legs, and neither one of us do anymore. Like, that very well is probably something inflammatory going on in the body. Helping improve skin, hydration, thickness, circulation, and capillaries. So we actually have a lot of dermatologists that speak very highly and use Juice Plus in their practices for that, because it lends itself really well to reducing fine lines and hydration. And when you look at that study from Tufts, I'll be curious to see if that's one of the variables being tested, like skin elasticity and that sort of thing. Okay, this one is huge for me, reducing oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is not just a buzzword, okay? You hear it out there a lot, but I'm not sure that even I really fully realized what it was until I was going through some certifications to understand it better. But we produce oxidative stress in our body by just breathing, you know, exercising, digesting. Everything we do produces oxidative stress. Certainly, the environmental toxins we breathe or additives in our food don't help. They ratchet that up. My point is you can't escape it, because even if we were all leading a perfectly healthy lifestyle, some of the healthy things we do produce oxidative stress. Athletes, in fact, should be eating roughly twice as many fruits and vegetables as someone who's sedentary to tamper down the high levels of oxidative stress that kind of elite athleticism can lead to, okay? So oxidative stress, in order to picture it, and I was actually gonna do it tonight and I forgot. I'm gonna do it in March though at our event, I promise. So I have cut an apple in half before. Do this at home if you've never done it before. You probably know what I'm about to say if you ever have cooked with apples or ever cut an apple, right? What happens if you cut an apple and just lay it out? Turns brown. That is the process of oxidation, okay? That is cellular damage happening to the apple. Have you ever, squirted a lemon on half the apple or the whole apple? What's that do? Prevents it. It's because of the antioxidants in the lemon that are preventing the oxidative stress from happening. The same exact thing is happening when we're flooding our bodies with Juice Plus. This is a huge one. I don't want to misstate, but there are a number of studies dedicated to studying how much does Juice Plus reduce oxidative stress in the body. Because for the health and medical community, that's massive. That is huge. And there have been multiple studies showing just the incredible reduction of oxidative stress in our bodies when we take Juice Plus. One of the first couple studies that were done, as you can imagine, are the antioxidants delivered to the bloodstream? Because if they're not, what's the point? Why even do any more tests? Because if it's not delivered to the bloodstream, nothing's going to happen. That's the big knock on vitamins and supplements. So many of them are not readily absorbed into the body. And what you get is expensive urine, essentially, depending on how much you're spending on your vitamins. It happens. Helps to protect DNA from damage. Another couple studies on this. It has been proven that flooding your body with the Juice Plus protects damage of DNA up to 66%, particularly at the ends. This is a very big deal too. I was talking to a genetics doctor about this a couple years ago at a boot camp or an event, and he was explaining that to me. So if you had a child over the age of, I think it was 35, because I think I had to sign the papers when I had Michael, they label you, don't they? What's your label? Did anyone have the label? AMA? Yeah, what's it stand for? Advanced maternal age. It's okay, I know I'm not a spring chicken, but what's the big deal here? Well, the big deal is it's riskier to have a baby the older you get, and it stinks, but it's a fact. And it's a fact because of what we're talking about. We pass on the DNA that we have in our bodies to our children when we have them. So, you know, it is much. Oh, that's okay.
There we go.
Oh my gosh, she came all the way from New York. So yes, she is. She made an entrance. So the fact that it protects our bodies from DNA damage is huge. Do you know how good I feel about the fact that Caitlin and Michael are getting this in their bodies? Michael from in utero, Caitlin from when she was 1 year old. Do you know how much better I feel about my future grand? You know, not to look ahead. Anthony in the back is our youngest attendee tonight. He is down from New York swimming at University of Maryland in a huge meet. And he might be one of the biggest proponents of Juice Plus I've ever met, okay? His mom snapped a picture of him presenting Juice Plus to his friends in his room a couple weeks ago. He has shaved massive, you know, time off of his 100 IM. He's doing so good. And you guys, the fact that we're affecting kids at this young an age is just, it's so special. I love it. And we're protecting DNA from damage. Boost the immune system. This was the most notable one for us as a family. Like I said, we weren't, thankfully, not dealing with any chronic illness when we started Juice Plus, but I can assure you, we were dealing with every single solitary cold and bronchial thing that came to town. Because we typically, most of you know me relatively well, we typically spread ourselves relatively thin. We burn the candle at like 4 ends. I thought there were 2, but we found 4, and we burn them all. But that's how we roll, frankly, and we like it. But you know, that doesn't always lend itself to not getting sick, because you're just exposed to more people. You're maybe not getting as much sleep. I do now, by the way. I'm committed to my sleep now, but at the time I wasn't. So we were getting sick a lot. And when we did, it would linger, you know, and mine started every single time the same exact way. I'd be totally fine, and then I'd swallow and be like, oh, here it comes. I'd feel it, and it was right down the back of my throat, and it would be there for 10 days. And I wasn't in bed, because that's not how I roll, but I was not happy for 10 days. It has been unbelievable. Our first fall on Juice Plus, we started in September. We still got a couple illnesses, but they weren't nearly as bad. And again, I had a newborn and a 1-year-old, so you can imagine. They were like licking bumpers and stuff, and I do not exaggerate. Unfortunately, I'm not exaggerating. But we still got some stuff, but it was a lot better, you know, notably better. By that second winter, we had been on it a full year. Unbelievable. Like the difference was night and day. It was like the third year that I actually went to an event and my eyes were open to the fact that because this is just food, you can double up, triple up, quadruple up if you want to. And I was about to knock on wood, but I don't even have to. I just have to take my capsules. We don't get it anymore. We don't. You know, I see that note come home from Michael about his strep throat. I don't panic. I just double them up. And we go from there. Improving gum and periodontal health, huge, because pocket depth, I've learned a lot in my tenure with Juice Plus, but pocket depth is what they measure in that tiny space between your teeth and your gums. You know how they say that like your oral hygiene is a direct indicator of your heart health and some of those other internal things going on? It's because that is the primary area that bacteria and stuff can enter right through your mouth, right in the pocket depth. So to reduce pocket depth, which this product does, you'll see lots of people you'll hear say their gums don't bleed anymore when they floss. Sean's dentist, he had been going there for many, many years. Once again, 4 months in, he said to Sean, what are you doing? Your gums are completely different gums. What are you doing? And Sean's like, I don't know. Sean didn't even know. He didn't even say Juice Plus, by the way, because it had only been 4 months. It was not until he got home that day, we had a new shipment, and when he opened it, the periodontal study was in there. And he was like, oh my gosh, Dr. White just said to me today, your gums are totally different. It must be that, you know? And it was, because we were not doing other stuff. Contributes to cardiovascular wellness. I'm gonna spend a minute on this, because this is important. Show of hands, or I wish there was a thumbs down. I don't think there is. Thankfully, actually. I'm actually glad there's not. You can do a thumbs up, it's okay. If you have cardiovascular disease anywhere in your family, right? Come on, Dad, put your hand up. We are blood related. He's like, no, none. Trust me, folks, it's there. So this was a big one for me. And I also loved that it was done at University of Maryland. So there you go. You'll be swimming there. So the power of produce. Take a look at this. University of Maryland tested something called the vasoconstrictive effect of arteries. What that is when we eat a high-fat meal, our arteries do this. You know, it's like almost immediately. It's just kind of terrifying when you think about it, right? So you hear about that uptick of heart attacks and cardiac events over the holidays. It's not a coincidence, right? We're all eating meals that are much richer in calorie and fat content, typically around those holiday time periods. So that constriction just tends to be happening more frequently. You take a look at this group. They tested a placebo group, so their control group, and then they had one group of people that took just the fruit and the vegetable, the garden and orchard, and one that took the trio, which is always, 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 always what I recommend people take, because trio is just bulletproof. I've had so many people have improvements in skin and sleep, and it's just, it takes you to that much higher level. But when you look at this, at baseline, the constriction was anywhere from 40 to 47%, depending on the group. That shocked me. Like, I was picturing maybe like 5% or something. I mean, that's like almost 50%. So you can understand now, at least I did, and I, by the way, had a cardiologist walk me through this study so I could really understand it inside and out. You can understand if you've got plaque or a blockage, how this can lead to a cardiac event, right? And I will say the meal that was tested was a McDonald's breakfast meal. It was like a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, hash browns, and a coffee. Now, I don't eat at McDonald's. Don't. But it is not because of the fat and calories. It's because I count chemicals. I always say there's not enough people counting chemicals. We should stop counting calories and start counting chemicals, period. We'd all be better off. Truly and sincerely, we would. But I looked at the fat and calorie content of that meal, and I do that on a regular basis. I can guarantee you. It's not a McDonald's where there's the other chemicals, but it's out anywhere, or even here, or at a party. I mean, there's plenty of times that I have that amount. So my point is, the fat and calorie content they were testing wasn't extraordinarily high. It was kind of a gross meal, but we all do it, even people that are trying to be healthy. So this was just after 30 days, 1 month. This is the science nerd in me coming out. The p-value of this study was 0.02. So what that means is that we can be 98% certain that the results that we're looking at here were driven by the variable being tested. In this case, it was adding Juice Plus to the diet. Okay, so this, in other words, was an extraordinarily well-controlled experiment. So if you take a look, placebo group after 4 weeks, no statistical difference, as we would expect, you know, because it's the placebo group. The garden and orchard blend went down from 45% to just 16%. Major, you know, that's a huge, huge improvement. And then you look at the folks that were taking all three, the fruit, the veggie, and the berry blend, and we've often heard, you know, that berries are good for heart health. That's what we tell ourselves when we drink wine anyway, right? But they were the highest group to start. They went down to 1.7%, which the study called virtually undetectable. So the cardiologist who walked me through this was like, do you understand what that means? And I thought like he knew something I didn't know. I was like, what? What does 1% mean? And he was like, well, in my opinion, it means everyone who can swallow should be taking Juice Plus, you know? And it was like that moment, I was just like, you're right. You know, it's those things that just like fuel my fire to just keep always going out there and sharing. Like I would stand in a room full of like 20,000 people. It doesn't bother me. Like I would share Juice Plus with anyone because I feel, Kim's word for the year is unapologetic, right? I feel unapologetic with the sharing of it at this point because you can't unhear this stuff once you hear it, right? And it's like, I just have seen the benefits, I've heard the benefits, and when you look at the stuff that's happening on the inside, it's amazing. I also love that the company has something called the Children's Health Study. What that has allowed us to do is it has allowed us to collect information that is more subjective. You know, that you're not looking under a microscope and seeing if somebody is eating more fruits and veggies or if they are going to the doctor less, right? So it's more subjective information, but for a huge group of people, hundreds of thousands of people getting feedback. And when you look at that, you know, 96% report positive benefits. That's a big deal, right? So that's 96% of people that are taking the product along with their child are experiencing positive benefits. You rarely hear that, when it comes to anything out there, that many people. I've already talked a lot about this, but what fuels my fire to share, the science and the stories. So I'm gonna move a little bit into the stories now. What are the stories that I hear most often? What is the feedback I get most often? I like the science because it shows us what's happening in everybody, right? It's very, very controlled. Stories are a little bit different because they're not controlled, okay? There are oftentimes, and I hope there are, other lifestyle changes at play, good or bad or indifferent. Hopefully they're good, right? Hopefully people are making some other changes too. But in any case, these aren't as controlled, right? It's feedback from people who, this is what Juice Plus has done in their body. But I will tell you, the ones that I talk about and that I share with people, I have heard often enough that I always tell my friends, like, be your own science experiment. And I want the people I know and care about that are so honest to take it consistently every day and to write down every change they feel. Because there are things that you wouldn't necessarily expect, like getting rid of acid reflux, so these are some other ones. Huge boost in immune system. That is one I hear, again, constantly. Increased regularity, which is not a big deal if you're somebody who's regular. But if you are not, or if you have a child who's not, it's a big deal. Quick story on that one. I have a friend of mine who will remain nameless. She has IBS, and she has for years. And so significantly that she was hospitalized twice about 2 summers ago. Because you can get to a point where you're impacted enough, you can risk perforation, which is not anything that anybody wants to happen. It's a rather emergency situation, okay? So after being hospitalized twice, she was on a medication that was costing $400 a month, and it was touching it, but barely, right? So she was still not having great results. So I asked her to please try it, just straight out, because she's a dear friend of mine. I said, I really want you to try this. You have nothing to lose. So she went off of her other medication. She started Juice Plus. She still takes it religiously every day today because it helped her. She's been regular ever since. So again, if you've never struggled with that, not a big deal. If you have, it's a huge deal, to get over that hump. Behavior improvements in children, and I'm gonna show you a video in a little bit on that one. We have seen a lot, just improving nutrition across the board can help so significantly with behavior. I desperately at some point in my life want to be able to take a population of children and somehow ensure that they're getting like the best, most ideal nutrition day in and day out for a given period of time, and just see what happens. Because the studies that they've done abroad on that, and there's been many abroad, are very impressive. More sustained energy all day long. I hear that all the time. I haven't had caffeine since I started Juice Plus. You don't want to see me on caffeine at all. It's not a pretty sight. Better sleep at night. I still don't quite understand how that one works. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe Carla can shed some light if you've got some background in that, but that was my experience. And I was an insomniac for years. I mean, just years. And it wasn't anything physical, I didn't think, happening in my body. I thought it was like my mind couldn't slow down. Like I was just assumed it was that. My sleep got so much better and so much more restorative as soon as I started Juice Plus. My cravings totally went away, but this is also one that I get a ton of feedback on because our bodies are smart. So there are a lot of people out there that are overfed and undernourished. It happens. And people that are overfed and undernourished, it doesn't matter how many calories they're intaking, their body is still gonna send off hunger signals. And I've worked with clients who are trying to lose weight who have said to me, but I'm actually still just that hungry. I get it. I would be too if my body didn't have enough fruits and vegetables in it. You know what I mean? Because your body is crying out desperately for what it needs. So you're gonna be hungry. If you're eating empty calories all day, it's not gonna give you that kind of satiety that you need to really, improve the volumes of food that you're putting in your body. Easier to lose and maintain weight. Some of it is because of what I just talked about when it comes to a cravings perspective. There's a little something called metabolic reprogramming. Kara, if you're there, do a little heart or a high five or something. I'm going to use you as an example real quick. One of my amazing friends came to me probably 5 years ago now, and she listed like the 3 foods that her son would eat. And if she were here, she would tell me that I'm right on these, but I believe they were like chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, and something else in the beige category. Something else. There was one other thing in there I think that he would eat, maybe French fries. So her son has been on Juice Plus for about 5 years now, and she sends me pictures of him eating, like drinking kale and arugula smoothies and eating things directly off their tower garden. It's unbelievable. You know, like your body really does, and that's one of the questions in the Children's Health Study. Are your children willingly eating more fruits and vegetables now? Because when you get that kind of nutrition into your body for long enough, that's what happens. Also in that category, and I could give a whole talk on that, and I won't. I have a video I can send you if you want from Dr. Mitra Ray. But one of the reasons it's easier to lose and maintain weight when you've got this level of nutrition in your body goes back to oxidative stress. So remember I said our bodies are smart. They're so smart that when we have this level of, picture oxidative stress as being these free radicals that are just gonna they literally are like lightning bolts on our cells, right? So our bodies enrobe those in fat. Thank God, right? It sounds like we don't want fat. We do want fat. We do want and need some fat in our body because that's one of the things it does. It enrobes those toxins so that it protects our vital organs. That's great. Like the human body is a miraculous thing. If you have a high level of oxidative stress in your body, it holds on to more fat because it needs more to get its job done from a protective standpoint. That is why we see so many people effectively being able to shed weight easier when they're cleaning up their diets, adding the Juice Plus, and reducing that oxidative stress, right? It's very, very interesting how that can happen. Cessation of headaches and migraines. We hear that an awful lot as well. Again, probably a lot to do with the inflammation and some of the blood flow that helps with the heart stuff as well. Clearing up of skin, you're gonna see a couple before and afters on that. The Trio does a great job on that. Michael had eczema the second he went on the 3rd blend, because when I was nursing him, this is how I figured it out. When I was nursing him, he was getting all 3 blends, and through me, and never a sign of eczema anywhere. And the second he was not nursing, I was dumping the fruit and veggie capsules in. I just wasn't doing the purples yet for some reason. I was just doing the fruits and veggies, and he started getting a little bit of eczema. It wasn't terrible, but it wouldn't clear up. We went to the dermatologist. We tried, some topical stuff. We tried a couple different things. It wouldn't clear up. Almost the instant I put him on the purples, because I saw like a before and after somewhere on Facebook, gone, never came back. And I'm like, gosh, it was the purples that were really pushing him over the edge there. But there's a lot of great stories when we see skin and eczema. Another quick example on that, a good friend of mine has colitis, and for that really affects the absorption of things in your body. Well, Juice Plus is very, very easy to absorb. It's already essentially pre-digested because it's in that powder form. So it hits your body, it's absorbed. Now, one of the things that, is that off now?
Keep going.
Okay. One of the things that, we're checking for battery, making sure. So one of the things that happened with him when he started taking Juice Plus, he had red raised bumps on his arms and legs for many years. And again, went to dermatologist, he tried orals, he tried topical, many, many things. He didn't even discuss that with me. I didn't even know that about him until he started taking Juice Plus, and several months later it was gone and never came back. And he was like, that's so weird. It went away and it never came back. It's not weird. You know what I mean? Because your body is now getting and absorbing the nutrition it needs to help whatever it was, that was causing that. Hair, nails, we've already talked about, and the craving more fruits and veggies, we've already talked about. I'm just gonna wrap it up with a couple stories, and I know they're hard to see, but here are some great before and afters on skin. Again, a lot of great stuff on rosacea, eczema, acne, nutrition affects all of that. This one was really interesting to me. This is Lee. Her mom had a lot of neck and back pain. So this is a chronic pain story to the point that she had multiple surgeries. Like, I'm pretty sure she was suffering enough, right? If you're going surgical, it still didn't help. When she started flooding her body with good nutrition, the pain subsided. So when you think about what an anti-inflammatory diet can do, this rich in fruits and vegetables, it's pretty extraordinary. This one up here had quite a bit. But this person had a lot of achy joints, low immune system, severe gut pain, tiredness. At the end of the day, a lot of these sound like autoimmune, right? So I've got some great autoimmune stories. If anybody is suffering from autoimmune or knows someone who is, please reach out to me, because I want to get you a document that I put together that has to do with autoimmune and diet in general, but also some great Juice Plus stories on really what some of these lifestyle changes have done, okay? This is one from someone who was going to come but is not here this evening. She was having blood count issues for several, actually months and months on end. So they were testing her on a very regular basis. She also happened to not have a menstrual cycle for like 10 or 15 years. So she's young, she recently got married, and she was told she just couldn't have kids, right? It's like, well, kind of not so fun to hear when you're in that season of life. She went on Juice Plus a while back, and she posted this on Facebook, like her recent success. All of her blood was back in healthy range, and after 15 years, she got a menstrual cycle back, which, that's why I always say the power of produce. Like, if you're really focusing on feeding your body what it needs, amazing things can happen. Okay, this one over here was also a lot of fibromyalgia. We have had a lot of success with people that were diabetic or pre-diabetic, especially that type 2, that is more lifestyle, adult onset, with great impact there, because it's a great way to flood your body with the nutrients in the fruit without getting the sugar. So that was kind of a diabetic and arthritis story. This person, though, also went off of many, many different medications in a day that they were having a lot of side effects from. So that was, of course, a great one for them. This person was a skin story that I pulled down a while back. Again, this one was infertility, migraines, allergies, IBS. So you really see things across the board when it comes to Dr. Du Bois. Raise your hand if you've seen him, or push a little like on the button. Okay, Dr. Du Bois is amazing. He is an infectious disease doctor out of Atlanta, and he has been recognized nationally and internationally as being one of the best in his field. But one of the things that he said when I first met him, and I always remember it, is that there is no human condition that good nutrition can't help. So whenever anybody comes to me with something specific, my response is always, I think you have A, every reason to be hopeful, and B, you're not going to know till you try, because I have seen too many people have amazing things happen for it not to be worth it to try. We weren't struggling with anything, and I still think it's an integral part of my day-to-day. But certainly if you've got something that's not right, that you feel like you can improve upon, this is just an incredibly easy way to get your nutrition every single day. This happened to be a bit of a weight loss story. She was somebody that really loved, it was at the time called Transform 30, but now we call it Shred 10, where we take our capsules, we do some shakes, and I have one slide on that at the end for anyone who's interested. Okay, I'm gonna play just one story. I have 3 here, and when we have more time, I sometimes play them all. I'm just gonna tell you Becky's story first very quickly, because she's a dear friend of mine and I love her. And she was nice enough to get on the phone with a high school friend of mine the other day. Oh, she's on? Hi, Becky. Love you, Becky. So thank you, Becky, for talking to my high school friend. It was so nice. This is like people just, they all reach out because they want, I said, your story will help him. So Becky heard about Juice Plus many years ago when her mom was very sick with cancer. And her mom had been given an unfortunately very short period of time to live. That was when they heard about Juice Plus. They both immediately started taking it, because fruits and vegetables, when you're in that kind of situation, are a good thing. Her mom was blessed with a much longer time, and Becky, you can type in, because I don't want to say the wrong one, if you could comment below. It was a much, much, much longer time than she was originally given, and they got to spend that amazing time together. And they, during the course of that, both got involved with Juice Plus. When Becky started taking it, when her mom did, she had one child that was suffering a lot with ADD and another that was on the autism spectrum. So as a mom of even kids without any struggles, it's a hard job. So add on top of it, like, any struggles that are going on, and it's just compounding. It's not easy. So what happened in Becky's situation was unbelievable relief from her ADHD situation. I have multiple friends who have taken their kids off of ADHD medication after starting them on Juice Plus, introducing shakes, more fruits and veg. Like one of my friends has a tower. It's just all of this fruit and veggie goodness in their body can just be so, so helpful to behavioral. So her daughter had a great experience with that. And her son, I remember when she told me this, it was one of the first times we met, but it's one of the only incidents that her doctor can ever remember that they took somebody off of the autism spectrum. So it's awesome, right? Yay, lots of likes and loves there, I hope. But Becky made a decision to do everything she could. You know, she found Juice Plus and became very educated on food and its role in the body, and cleaned out food dyes and flooded them with Juice Plus. And look what can happen. You know, it's just so cool. So I'm going to play one more story and then we're done. This is somebody named Elizabeth Lawson. I love her story because it talks about not just physical health, but some mental health struggles. And her 3 children happen to be adopted. So it's also kind of looking at 3 very different genetic pools as well. So I really like her story. Her smoke alarm does go off for just a minute or 2 during her story, but that's okay because the message is what matters.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth. My husband and I have 3 children. Our oldest is turning 13 this month. And I want to share with you what Juice Plus has done for all 3 of our children. Our 13-year-old, when we adopted her at 11 months old, was severe head-to-toe eczema. For 11 years, we attempted to use steroid creams and various other remedies to try and even maintain her skin, and it never really helped her. But on Juice Plus, the 2nd week on the gummies, Esther's skin began to resolve. The blotchy patches began disappearing. We've been on Juice Plus a year now, and her skin, you would never know that she had eczema. It's just beautiful. Our 10-year-old has a diagnosis of ADHD, fetal alcohol syndrome, and sensory processing disorder. On the gummies, she began sleeping 10 hours a night instead of 6. This was huge. We call her our Energizer Bunny, so I was thankful to see her getting more sleep. And then I learned that the probiotics in the capsules are so helpful for children with ADHD and autism. So I switched her, and she now takes the capsules, the trio capsules like my husband and I do. And on the first 4 months of those capsules, when I went into her IEP meeting, the teacher said, "What are you guys doing differently? Because this little girl has changed. The fog on her brain has lifted. Her fine motor skills have come into existence. Her attention span has increased. Her focus is sharper. And her expressive language ability has jumped a 1.5 years developmentally." Yay, Juice Plus, because that is the only thing that we had done differently. Our 9-year-old has suffered for 5 years, and we have suffered along with him with an immense anxiety that just increased from age 3 on up, and began to manifest in extremely angry, rage meltdowns, very violent, disruptive behavior, and an edginess that just never left him, mood swings that always caused us to walk on eggshells as a family. We tried meds, we tried therapists, we changed our parenting style, nothing worked. The 2nd week Michael was on the gummy chewables, all of his behaviors dropped off. The edginess left, and we had our little man of peace back. Really, we had our lives back as a family. It's huge. So before I end up in a blubbering mess, I just want to say, for some parent out there that maybe has a picky eater or a child that struggles with anxiety, please, please put your child on the gummies. Get them started. It's just fruits and vegetables, and you'll be blown away by the nutrition, the impact that nutrition can have on behaviors. Oh my goodness. So I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to share our story. and I hope it helps someone.
No, thank you. And Elizabeth,
Happy Memorial Day. You had
thank you for sharing. Elizabeth, I don't know if you're on, but if you're on, thank you so much for making that and sharing. We really appreciate your story so much. I love that story because you can tell what it did in her emotion. So best ways to start, really and sincerely, most people start with the one simple change, right? It's just flooding their body with Juice Plus day in and day out. Again, always write down everything you're feeling because it's really helpful to people like me who like to collect that information so I can share it out with others. And particularly when it's people, like I said, that I know and that I know firsthand. I love going to conferences and boot camps and hearing those stories too, but when it's somebody I know, it's that much more meaningful. The other thing that a lot of us do, raise your hand if you've done a Shred 10. Yeah. Raise your hand if you're gonna do another one. Okay. They're awesome, you guys. So whoever invited you to join tonight, ask them about Shred 10. Because I'm a person that does not think that there's any just one silver bullet out there. I truly and sincerely believe that Juice Plus is one of the handful of things that all of us need to be doing every single day. I don't think it's the only thing. I will never, ever, ever go a day without it. But I also want the people I know and love to be drinking enough water, eating cleaner, getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise. All of those things are gonna make a difference. I used to love having my clients do the one simple change, and we would do one change at a time because I would want them to see that each one of those things makes a difference. The Juice Plus makes a huge difference. The sleep makes a huge difference. The hydration makes a huge difference. But now we've done something that I almost like even more. It's just a 10-day challenge. And for 10 days, because you can do anything for 10 days, and I was worried, to be honest. And I do most of this stuff already, but I had to take out alcohol. I was not happy about that. But I had to take out alcohol, processed foods, and my processed foods were the ones on that list I talked about. So they were pretty good, but they were still processed, and dairy. So I was still eating dairy. I was still drinking alcohol. I already don't eat gluten, don't do caffeine, get enough exercise, sleep, water. So I already do almost everything up there, right? I was blown away by how different I even felt from doing it all together for 10 days. So I actually started January 1st because I was hosting a group on January 9th, and I kind of wanted to get the lay of the land, and I haven't stopped since. There was one day last weekend that I kind of like, that alcohol entered the picture again. That was it, just one day. And so, yeah, I'm shredding the whole month of January. But typically what it is it's just a 10-day period, which I like because it's doable. And I like that it's 10 days. And you don't have to go beyond that for the shred. It then goes into what they call the live it, which is totally doable. It's just continuing to flood your body with the capsules, and I drink at least one shake a day because that gives you good protein and fiber. They do think it's a good idea, and so do I, to continue for 20 additional days to eliminate dairy and gluten, because those are both very inflammatory. Whether or not you're intolerant doesn't really matter. It's inflammatory regardless of whether or not you're intolerant. So it is nice to try to go off gluten and dairy for 30 whole days. But then at that point, most of the eliminates just become reduce, okay? Which is honestly good decision making for any of us who are trying to be healthy. So what I love about this is that it's a 10-day hardcore commitment. You're in a Facebook group. You have incredible amounts of accountability. You have cookbooks, you have recipes, you have workouts. It is awesome. And I posted something today on my shred group of a doctor who went through, she's done 5 or 6 shreds now. And she said what has been missing for her the past 20 years trying to get healthy is this community. Is like the accountability, doing it in a Facebook group. Heather and Carla have been shredding for like a year and a half, I think. I don't know that they'll ever stop shredding, but it's so fun. So ask whoever invited you to this call, whoever's in the room, to share shred with you, because I personally think that's the best way to kick off your Juice Plus experience, is to jump into a 10-day shred, and then you roll into the live it, and then anytime you feel like you need a jump start, do a 10-day shred. You know, it's great. I need, like, whether it's 3 or 4 times a year, I'm going to host a group once a month. So 10 days out of every month, I'll be absolutely sticking to that because I like it, and because I'll be hosting groups. So definitely look into that, because the best 2 ways to get started are just to commit to the one simple change, or like I said, even better, take that commitment a step further. There's no further investment. Shred 10 doesn't cost anything. It's just because people like me and people in the Juice Plus community want to take it a step further, right? We are about inspiring healthy living, not just about Juice Plus. We feel like it's an amazingly huge component, but it's one of the things on this list that's going to make the biggest difference. So February 6th, anyone who is watching is welcome to join my Shred group if you don't have somebody doing one. I can handle a large group. It's fun. Our last group was like almost 500 people. So anyone here is welcome to do our February 6th group. It's going to be great. So thank you for your time. Hopefully you found this beneficial. I like to end with just kind of that thought. If you're not somebody that is already flooding your body with this kind of nutrition, making some of those lifestyle changes that we talked about in Shred 10, I do just want you to try it, period. I'm not going to say, think about trying it. I want you to do it. Like, I want you to actually do it. I want you to try it, and I want you to see what your story is. And I want to hear it so I can share it with other people, because nothing is more helpful than everybody making these changes and then sharing it with other people, because keeping it to yourself is no good. So that's why I'm here sharing away. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. Any questions? Okay, so this recording, just so you know, for those of you watching and people who couldn't make it or be on, is going to be available in this Facebook group for about another 2 weeks. They'll only let you do a 2-week period. So if you feel like this content was helpful to you and you think you know and love somebody that could benefit from it, please invite them to the group. You're watching it right now, which means you're in the group. So for those of you who aren't as sure about how to do it, if you're watching, you're already in. And you just have to go to the button that says invite and invite them through text, email, or Facebook. And then for 2 weeks, they'll be able to watch this portion and get the information. And also you can type in questions in there too that come up over the next couple days, and I'll be sure to answer them.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Bye.